When you are a king, you have many privileges that only a king can enjoy. King Charles III took over his mother Queen Elizabeth II after her passing on September 8, 2022, at Balmoral Castle in Scotland at the age of 96. He has handled himself extremely well, with the entire world constantly watching his every move. But as a king, there are a lot of things that only him can do but nobody else can. Want to find out? Keep watching. Number 1. He doesn't need a license to drive in the UK. The king is the only person in the United Kingdom who doesn't legally need a driver's license because all driving licenses are issued in the king's name. This is an example of the king exercising his royal prerogative, a special exemption from some statute laws. He has never even taken a driving test. That being said, the king is an experienced driver. King Charles III learned to drive during his education and military training. He attended schools such as Cheam School and Gordonstown, where he likely had access to driving instruction. Additionally, he served in the Royal Air Force, RAF, and the Royal Navy, where he received training that included learning to fly aircraft, which may have contributed to his overall understanding of vehicles. Number 2. He doesn't need a license plate to drive. It won't be difficult to spot the king's car, as it will be the only one without a license plate. Yes, that's right. Along with not needing a license, the king's car does not need to have a license plate either. This is because of the simple reason that registration plates are also issued by the king's authority, so there is no point in him having a license plate for his car. Number 3. The speed limit does not apply to him. The speed limit does not apply to him, and he can go as fast as he wants because the speed limit does not apply to him. He is completely exempt from the laws and regulations governing the road. In Britain, speed limits don't apply to vehicles used for emergency services like police, fire rescue, ambulances, as they might prevent these services from doing their job on time. Even when the king is not behind the wheel, the royal family is driven by the police, which makes them exempt from any speeding laws. But this is only when they are being driven around on official royal duties. Number 4. He doesn't need a passport to travel. All the passports in the United Kingdom are issued under the king's name. That is why he doesn't have to issue one for himself. So the king technically doesn't need to carry a passport when he travels, and this extends to international travel as well. The king can travel anywhere in the world without a passport, but it isn't true for any other member of the royal family, as all other members of the royal family, including Prince William, have passports. Also, fun fact, the king also has the power to withdraw anybody's passport in the UK. Number 5. He doesn't have to pay taxes. Yes, the king doesn't have to pay taxes, but he does anyway. Well, at least some of them. Since 1993, both the late Queen and King Charles have voluntarily paid income tax on their personal income. This includes income from the Duchy of Cornwall when he was Prince of Wales, and now applies to his private income as king. King Charles will not pay inheritance tax on assets inherited from Queen Elizabeth II, due to a rule established in 1993 that exempts transfers from one sovereign to another from this tax. This means he automatically inherited her estate without incurring this tax liability. Number 6. He can't be arrested. The king enjoys sovereign immunity, which means that he cannot be arrested. This immunity extends to all the British heads of state while they're in office. But the king is protected by this law for life, as his position is lifelong. Along with this, the king also enjoys diplomatic immunity in foreign countries, which means that he cannot be arrested in any other country either. But what if the king were to commit a crime? Well, the prosecutors could go after the crown as executive. But the king's ministers are required to act on his behalf, even accepting any punishment that was given for the crime. But it is possible that if the monarch did commit a serious offense, he or she would be forced to abdicate. In the 17th century, King Charles I was tried for treason after the English Civil War. He said, "No earthly power can justly call me, who am your king in question, as a delinquent." The court did not agree with his statements and had him executed. Number 7. He has the power to form governments. The parliament doesn't exist without the formation of a government. The king invites the appointed prime minister to Buckingham Palace, where he officially asks them to form a government. This meeting is known as the kissing of hands. Number 8. He can confer titles. Now, knights today don't mean men in armor riding around on horseback, but Britain still has knights and many other titles. They are appointed by the king. Knighthood is given to people who have made some contributions to the British society, whether it is in business, art, sciences, military, or elsewhere. They are decided by the ministers, and the king knights them personally. Number 9. He can ignore or overrule ministerial advice in a grave constitutional crisis. Most of the king's political powers are exercised with the consultation of his ministers, but there is an exception in a grave constitutional crisis. The sovereign can act contrary to or without ministerial advice in such a situation. The king can ignore their advice. Today, it is not clear what would constitute a situation like this. Number 10. He holds the power to fire the Australian government. The king is also the head of state in Australia. Due to this, he has certain powers even over the government of Australia. One of those is the power to fire the entire government. Number 11. He's the head of a religion. The King of England is also the head of the Church of England. Britain's state religion was established after King Henry VIII renounced the Catholic Church in Rome in the 16th century. Since 1534, the British sovereign has been the head of the Church of England. Part of the king's official title is Defender of the Faith and Supreme Governor of the Church of England. Fancy, right? With this, he also has the power to appoint bishops and archbishops. However, he can only exercise this power after consulting the Prime Minister, who takes advice from the Church Commission. What this means is that the ruler must be a confirmed member of the Church of England. Any other religion cannot ascend the British throne. So let's say if Prince William were to convert to Islam, he would not become the king after King Charles III's demise. Number 12. He can give away special money to the elderly, so there is a special kind of silver money called Maundy money, which the king can give away to pensioners at a UK cathedral in a special ceremony. While King Charles III has participated in this tradition, he did not distribute Maundy money in 2024 due to health reasons. Queen Camilla represented him instead. The event emphasizes the king's role as a servant leader within the Church of England. Number 13. He is exempt from jury duty. The king does not have to take part in jury duty for the common people. In the United Kingdom, evading jury duty can result in a fine of up to £1,000. But for the king, jury duty is not mandatory. This is because the Criminal Justice Bill claims that it might disrupt the king if members of his circle were called to serve. Even the king's immediate family were exempt from jury duty until 2003, after which the law was amended today. Only the king himself is exempted. The king also cannot be forced to give evidence in court. Number 14. He can decide the royal dress code. There are a lot of fashion rules for the royal family, always wearing tights, never wearing an all-black outfit except for mourning, and not wearing colorful nail polish are just some of the rules that they need to follow. The king has the final say on such matters, and you better believe that he makes some of these rules based on his personal preferences. Number 15. He can pick and summon the Prime Minister. The king has the power to appoint the Prime Minister of the UK. In most cases, he appoints the leader of the party that won most seats in the House of Commons. And while the king is required to stay out of politics, there are certain circumstances, like if a prime minister resigns or dies, where he might have to make some decisions. He can also summon the prime minister for meetings to stay updated on what is happening in the government. He can also express his opinions in the meeting, as the communication is strictly confidential. Number 16. He doesn't need a last name. King Charles III is a member of the House of Windsor, which was established in 1917 by King George IV. This name replaced the House of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha due to anti-German sentiment during World War I. Upon ascending the throne, Charles chose to retain his birth name as his regnal name, becoming King Charles III. Unlike Queen Elizabeth II, who used Elizabeth Regina, with Regina meaning queen in Latin, in official documents, Charles does not use a Latin title in the same way. Number 17. He can take legal custody of his grandchildren. You might not know this, but the king has legal custody of all his grandchildren. Regular grandparents might have to make visits to the courts if they want custody of their grandchildren, but not the king. The rule goes back 300 years when King George made the law because he had a poor relationship with his son. So while it is unlikely that the king would take away his grandchildren from their parents, the law would allow him to do so if he wanted. Number 18. He is exempted from the Freedom of Information Act. Not just the king, but the entire royal family is exempted from the Freedom of Information Act. According to the royal family's website, the royal household is not a public authority within the meaning of the Freedom of Information Acts and is therefore exempt from their provisions. This means that the royal family has a lot more privacy concerning their finances and day-to-day duties. For example, the public of the United Kingdom does not have access to detailed information about how the royal family spends the public funds or how big or small a role it plays in influencing any government policies. Number 19. He does not need to bow. An important part of royal etiquette is bowing, but it does not apply to the king. According to protocol, everyone has to bow to the king, while all male members of the royal family are required to greet the king with a bow. The female members have to curtsy, and he doesn't have to bow back. Number 20. He is on the currencies of multiple countries. King Charles III's portrait will be featured on new banknotes in the UK starting June 5, 2024. The Bank of England plans to introduce notes with his image alongside existing notes featuring Queen Elizabeth II, which will remain legal tender until they are worn out or damaged. Number 21. He chooses the royal menu. The king has a large cooking staff who can serve him anything he wants to eat. King Charles is known for his specific dietary habits, which include a preference for organic and locally sourced foods. He reportedly enjoys fresh fruits and vegetables from his own gardens, such as insisting on being served 2 plums each morning, even if he only eats 1. Number 22. He can issue royal warrants. A lot of companies have been issued royal warrants over the years. What is a royal warrant, though? It is a document that appoints a company or individual in a trading capacity to the royal household. The holder of the warrant can use the royal arms in connection to their business. It is the king who grants these warrants. King Charles III has granted his first royal warrants of appointment in May 2024. Number 23. He can declare war. The king can declare war on other countries. Not just that, but he is the only person in the United Kingdom with the power to do that. Of course, that doesn't in any way mean that he has absolute power to declare war. This power can only be exercised in cases of all-out warfare, and even then the Parliament, Prime Minister, and the government would have to allow it. He can also declare peace, as well as commit troops to an area of armed conflict. Number 24. He can grant a criminal pardon. King can grant royal pardon to anybody convicted of a crime if he deems it fit. This is a right granted to the British sovereign for a long time, known as the royal prerogative of mercy. This was originally intended to prevent the execution of a criminal, but it is rarely used in the modern-day United Kingdom, which has abolished the death penalty. The king, however, can still use the royal pardon to reduce an inmate's prison sentence. Number 25. He legitimizes laws. It is the Parliament that has the power to make the laws, but before the law goes into effect, it is the king who has to sign off on the proposed bill. He must give the royal assent, meaning that he approves the proposed law, or doesn't. So while the king is required to remain politically neutral, he can still reject a potential law, but it is not often the law is rejected. Number 26. He can command the armed forces. The King of Britain is the commander-in-chief of the UK's entire military force. All British soldiers have to swear an oath to him before they officially join the armed forces. As the commander-in-chief, the king can also delegate this duty to someone else. He can assign this position to another government official, most often the Prime Minister or the Secretary of State for Defense. Number 27. The king can dissolve the Parliament. The king has the right to fire everyone in the House of Commons and dissolve the Parliament, and then hold a new election with completely new members. The king has never used this power, but even if he did, government activities would go on quite smoothly. Anyway, the last time the Parliament was dissolved was in 1830. The king must also officially open Parliament every May to commence the parliamentary year. It is a huge ceremony, and it's the only event where the House of Lords, House of Commons, and the king are in the same space. Number 28. He owns all the dolphins and unaccounted swans in the UK. He might not be the ruler of the ocean world, but technically, he owns all the dolphins in the waters around the UK, as well as other fishes like whales, sturgeons, and porpoises. All the fish are recognized as fish royal if they are captured within 3 miles of the UK shores or washed ashore. They are claimed by the sovereign according to time generally. When brought into port, a sturgeon is sold in the usual way, and the purchaser, as a gesture of loyalty, requests the honor of its being accepted by Charles. And that's not all. The king also co-owns every swan in the River Thames, along with the Worshipful Company of Vintners and the Worshipful Company of Dyers. And it isn't just a formality either. The royal family is very involved in the well-being and conservation of the swans. There is an official keeper of the swans that position in existence for 700 years. There is also an annual swan-upping where all the swans in the UK are counted every single year. Number 29. Official birthday celebrations. He celebrates an official birthday separate from his actual birth date. The official birthday of the monarch is a tradition that dates back to the 18th century in the UK. It is celebrated separately from the actual birthday of the king, which in King Charles III's case is November 14th. The official birthday allows for a larger celebration during the warmer months when weather conditions are more favorable for public events. They serve not only as a celebration of his reign but also as an opportunity for citizens to come together in recognition of their monarch's role within British society and beyond. Number 30. He has his own ATM. When you are a king, you don't have time to rush to the ATM to retrieve some cash, and not because you have people who would do it for you either. Buckingham Palace has a private ATM in its basement. This cash dispenser is provided by the British Bank, Coates, and is only available to the royal family. Cool, huh? What do you think of all these perks? Makes ruling a country much easier, doesn't it? If you were a ruler, what privileges would you have loved to have? Let us know in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.